Hello rail fans. Today we are going to be building a HobbyTown of Boston road switcher model 87612A 6-wheel Alco. And this, as you can tell, is going to be for a Tyco C630 locomotive. If you're a Tyco fan, you know what I have in my hand. This is the Golden Eagle. Anyways, there's a few modifications needed to the shell. As you can see, there are some raised partitions where the handrails would go. You can see the handrail pocket here. You'll have to cut off a few of them on both sides. It looks like I've done 4 of them, maybe 5 of them actually. You'll need to either sand these off, cut them off, whatever you're going to do here. But these areas, these raised areas, I don't know if you can see that in camera, these raised areas will have to be taken off because otherwise, if they're not shaved, taken down, your chassis won't sit properly. Next, other thing you'll need to do to the shell is there's a post in here. I believe it held the light assembly for the Tyco. I would suggest cutting it just to give your flywheel more clearance. So pretty easy in terms of shell preparation. All you need to do is cut off those sort of raised areas. Okay, let's talk about chassis of the HobbyTown kit. Okay, if you have this, yes, you can see what I've done to it already. I've painted it. It's partially assembled, not fully assembled. So I'll just go over a few things what I've done so far. First of all, I painted it flat black in the areas that I wanted. Rather than that metal. Anyways, what you need to do here is this chassis is too small to begin with. You need to lengthen it, and to do that you need to cut it, and you need to use this splicer plate to attach the two halves in order to extend it. So the first half, if you're building this, I am measuring with my measuring tape 12.5 centimeters, okay, or 125 millimeters. You may want to make it 12.6 centimeters. I find that my particular chassis is a little bit short by like a millimeter. So again, it depends on your preference. Like, I find mine, you can easily take the shell off. It's not that difficult. If it was just a bit longer, it'd be a snugger fit. So again, pay attention there to that measurement. Putting my measuring tape right on it, you can see where I've cut, and I'm getting, as I said, 125 centimeters or 125 millimeters. Okay. For the rear half, again, I'm going right from the coupler pocket to where my cut is. And I'm going to say it is 86 millimeters. Okay? So, again, have a look at your measurements there. Make sure you got it correct. I mean, if you're a millimeter off, it won't make that much of a difference, but it should be fairly close. 87 perhaps. Okay. Anyways, once you have the measures done, you've cut your two pieces. Take note of the screws and the screw holes I've used. Again, you need to screw this down here. I've put in an additional hole here. Okay, this hole was not here, so I drilled that in myself. Reason, this area here was a little too loose. You can see there's a little bit of play in it right now. Again, once this is on the tracks and once it's sitting in the shell, it's not going to be moving all around. So again, this hole here comes from the factory, and this one here. Take note of the pillar block. Okay, this is for the flywheel. Take note of where I've screwed it in. Take note of where this particular bracket goes, as this is where your front truck couples onto the chassis. Okay. Go real slow for you, have a look. And the fuel tank, it's simply a couple of screws here. Real simple. These little raised nibs, whatever you want to call them. They go in, I think there's another one right back here. And then it just simply screws in. Real simple. Again, I painted this flat black just because, you know, there's what you're seeing rail side. Sorry, a little bit of dust markings here. Anyways, looking at this from the underside, you can see here that the pillar block screws in from the bottom for both of them. And you can see the splicer plate is screwed in from the top. And that's pretty much it for the chassis. Pretty simple. Again, you may want to see if it goes in. Taking note that this is the front. And you can see here, if I can get mine to sit properly. There. So you can kind of see why those raised areas of the chassis need to be shaved off. It's just for this. And you can see here there's a little bit of play back and forth in my chassis. Again, it's about 1 millimeter or so off. It's not by much, maybe 2 millimeters. But if you make it too tight, it's going to be too difficult to take out. Like, this thing is not falling out, not too much anyway. You'll have to, again, if you make it too tight, you're never going to get it off. And you risk breaking the shell. So mine is on there snug enough. Again, you pick up the locomotive from the fuel tank. So again, pick it up from the fuel tank, it'll be fine. But there's a little bit of play back and forth in it. And I think how I'm going to fix that, like once the trucks and couplers are all in, I think how I'm going to fix that is maybe a piece of styrene glued to the shell. And that will stop this from going back and forth so much. So again, now we can turn our attention over to trucks and motor. So here are the trucks. I believe they're identical. Again, I've painted these flat black just because this is what you'll see at railside. Some parts I didn't paint black just because it didn't matter. And some parts need to have that electrical conductivity. So you can see here, some parts were masked off and others were not. It's not the best paint job, but I didn't really care about some of the areas, as you're never going to see these, right? You're only going to see from the side, maybe from the front. And again, you can see where I masked this off. I can always go in with a paintbrush later and just sort of fix it up. But most part, you won't see the bare metal. Anyways, choose one truck to be the rear truck, the trailing truck, and choose one to be the drive. So here we have here I believe it's the trailing truck. And just to show you what I've done here, we have I think it's two thrust washers in here, and then this block right here. Okay, I'm not sure what you call it. Anyway, you can see that there on camera, hopefully. Okay, and then the other side, I've used 3 thrust washers and that block. Again, make sure, look at the orientation of that block though. Make sure that that square end, okay, is against the washer. And then you can finally see this socket here. You'll have to press fit that. Again, so I just put mine on the ground kind of thing, or on the desk, and it's just pushed down. There's also a ball joint in there. I got the white one in there. Again, yours won't have that. You can always put the ball joint in later. So anyways, looking at this, see if I can remember how this goes together. You can see that in camera or not. Again, I'm just doing this off memory. I don't have the instruction booklet here with me, and Again, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. I'm just trying to remember what I did. I think it went in this way. Oh, there's one side anyway. See, I may need to sand the inside of this because I may have got paint in the inside. Yeah, I see the problem. A little bit of paint here. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, the crud. Paint buildup. Again, this area is never going to be seen, so I got a little paint bleed through and build up. Okay, let's try and put this thing in again. Yeah. Okay, there's one side and the other. Tight fit. You can sort of see what I'm trying to do. There we go. It's in there. So you can see that turning. No problems. Now, they've given you a bunch of thrust washers, so use those. Don't be afraid to use those. Like I have 3 over on this side and 2 over here. But again, you don't want to make it too tight, but you don't want to make it too loose either. You can see here the amount of play I have with this drive axle. Okay, I can probably fit another thrust washer in there, but then this doesn't turn so freely. Okay, so there's going to be a little bit of play in this, but any more thrust washers, it's not going to freely turn around. Okay, wheel sets. Have a look at the wheel sets. You'll notice that one side is insulated. So pay attention to what side is what, as one side needs to be isolated and the other one is not. So again, on the opposite truck, if you look at it, again, if this side's isolated, on the opposite truck, the other side will be isolated. Okay? So you can't make that mistake. I'm just looking at paint buildup here. Hopefully I don't have too much paint buildup and I'm able to put this thing together. Yeah, that's the problem. I think I need to go do some sanding. Yep. Little bit of paint and crud buildup. Again, I just rushed the paint job. I wasn't doing this professionally, and it's just the truck assembly, and I thought to myself, no one's going to look here anyway. Which is true, but now, because I rushed it, I have paint buildup where I don't want paint buildup, and it's affecting the build. That's not good. Again, these are a press fit, if I could get that in there. And the next one. Notice then that the isolated wheels are all in the same orientation, same side. I've made a mistake here. I think I've made a mistake. Yes, I have made a mistake. Okay, here's my mistake. I have to take this apart. This little doodad, this gear, needs to be running this wheel. So I have it backwards. That's not good. I have to flip it around. This has to come out, if I can get it out, without sending the pieces across the room. And flip it around. Again, if you have this kit and you know what I'm doing, you must be like just cringing. Going, he's breaking it. He doesn't know what he's doing. It'll all come together. There we go. Let's try this again. Okay, now you can see the proper alignment of this drive axle, and you can see here how each of the gears should be meshing together. Again, this is upside down. When it's right side up, it'll be in the correct position. Just want to push this down all the way. There we go. So you can kind of see here how it fits. I think these wheels need to be pressed in. There we go. Yes, these wheels need to be pressed in. It's a tight fit because I have paint in there. A little bit of paint. Yeah. Ah, there we go. Well, there goes a wheel somewhere. Anyways, these have to be pressed inside of the truck. I have to press pretty hard on mine because I have a little paint buildup. So you can kind of see it go in there. This one's a little bit tight. Okay, I'm going to hit pause and get this correct because I have paint buildup inside and it's interfering with the trucks. Alright, we'll be back. Okay, you can see I got this last wheel in. You can see if I turn this now, all the wheels move, all the gears are making contact. Okay, mine's a little bit tight simply because of the paint buildup. I think eventually it'll wear off the paint. Like, there's a little bit of paint in here, which I should scrape out. You can sort of see it. You can see that crud right there. Again, as this gets worn in, I mean, the paint it'll come off where it needs to come off, right? So anyways, what happens is you can see this turning now. Again, it should be pretty free-flowing. Next is this cover plate. You can see I painted one side of it as well as the front and the back. Again, you probably won't see this at trackside, but you might see that side. It simply goes on like this. Again, I just took things out of paint, so there's some residual ick. You can kind of see the stuff I'm scraping off here. But this certainly looks better than the flat black, or sorry, the metal. Again, because I painted it, I may need to do some sanding. It's not quite going on. And that's because I painted it. So a little fine sanding in areas are needed. Alright, we'll be back. Okay, one truck is together. See it turning. Again, it'll get worn in the more you use it. Got that back plate on the underside. Yeah, this is I didn't want to risk painting in here, getting paint in the inside of this area. So you know, you can quickly, again, black paint and a paintbrush. I'll fix that up real quick. This side you're not going to see. You just won't see it. There's no way, because the locomotive is going forwards, so or backwards. But you won't see this part. Okay, so now we got the one truck done. Let's turn it a little bit. You may want to oil and grease it right now before you put it on your chassis. Okay, we're going to turn our attention to the next truck now. Okay, this is the last truck. It's the most difficult truck to prepare because it's the drive. So you can sort of see here what I've done with the other drive axle, whatever you want to call it. I have these bushings right here, if you can see that. But there's 3 raised ridges on the bushings and a flat side. So make sure the flat side is facing up towards you. You can probably see a little bit better over here. Again, there's these raised ridges on 3 sides of this bushing. So you're going to make sure the flat side with no raised edge is facing towards you, up. And then I've used, I think it's 4 thrust washers here, 2 back here. And again, make sure it's pressed down into the truck assembly. So there shouldn't be too much play back and forth. You can see mine spinning there, and the gear, it's not touching the frame at all. Again, you're gonna have to put on that socket. This is to press fit, so just, you know, take it out and like push it down. That's it. Don't go all the way through, but you know, just enough so you see the metal starting to come through. And yeah, you should be good to go. But now we have to put in wheels, and we want to make sure that they're the opposite orientation of our other truck. So have a look at your other truck, and you can see on this truck here that my insulator wheels are on one side. And so how this works is, yeah, this one's upside down. Okay, they're both upside down. How this works is there's this metal rod here. You can see the ball joint on the one, and what it fits in here. One side of the drive has the white ball joint, the other side will have the red. And you're going to have to cut that brass rod to the length that you need. So anyways, this is sort of just pressed in here like this, and one drive sort of turns the other, if that makes sense. And so we want to now put in the wheel sets, paying attention to which one is the isolated side. So this side's isolated. That means over here, the side closest to my thumb will be the isolated side. So let's take out our wheels, and you can see here little plastic insulator. Hopefully this goes in here because as I said, I did some painting, and I got paint where I shouldn't have got paint. And these are just a press fit. If it goes in, yeah, it's real tight, real tight. Okay, you can see it spinning around. Again, we can oil and lube these things up afterwards. Main thing is get them in. Making sure that your insulated side is all the same side. Okay, I think we're in business. Yeah, we're in business. Now to find the other truck cover. Oh, there it is. I kind of guffawed in the last assembly. I had it backwards, so make sure these little wings are positioned correctly. I believe they're going to go right here. So again, I may need to do some sanding simply because I have too much paint in some areas. Yeah, that's not going to go on. Did I have it bound backwards again? Probably. Sorry, I had it backwards. This time. Yes. Okay, good. Alright, we can put in the nuts and the finishing touches here in a few minutes. You want to now find these plastic bushings here, and these are to electrically isolate the truck from the chassis. So how this works is one will go on the underside, one will go on the underside of your chassis. So you just want to hold that there so it doesn't fall out. And then you want to position it sort of over top your truck. Oh, it fell out a bit. There we go. There we go. Here, I'll hold it up to camera so hopefully you can see that. So again, through that hole there is your insulated bushing, and then is screwed into the trucks. And then here's the other bushing. And I believe you need the longer screw here to go in through the truck. Okay, now that we have the front truck screwed in, you can see here how this works. This front truck is now completely electrically isolated from the chassis. Next step is somewhat complicated. I'm sure you can do it though. Anyways, there's this little doodad here, gear assembly. Right? Here, take this out if you want. There, this piece. Put your one gear in here. Take your other gear. Put it in. Oh yeah, now it's not going to go in for me. Isn't that the way? Come on. What? There we go. Now, if you're doing this, you'll see that you may need to put this yellow socket on here, along with I can't remember if it came with that already assembled or not, but you have to put this yellow socket on. Okay. Then what I would do, I would just make this your life easy, and I would just assemble the whole thing right away and just make it just one big step. So now you take your flywheel. You got to take off this big flywheel to get this bushing in here. Make sure that the flat side is against this flywheel. Put your flywheel back on. Put your black ball joint on the end of your flywheel. Okay, you don't need to cut this screw. I didn't have to. Okay. Put your other bushing on the other end. Now get your other socket. Press the socket in. Get your red ball joint. Connect it to the brass rod, and now assemble the whole thing. So black ball joint in here, okay, and now plop the whole thing right. I have to look at the orientation here. Yeah, right on the truck and in the motor mount there. The sorry, not the motor mount, the flywheel assembly. So just get the whole thing together. So it sits like that. Align your bushings to get in those pillar blocks. And again, if you see this turning, and how this works, the motor again turns the flywheel, which turns the gear assembly, and which then move your trucks. And now you take these two long screws that came with the kit, and you want to put them into the tower. Again, make sure that when you tighten up the screws though, that your gears are properly meshed together. So I would go in slowly with this, get the screws in there, turn your flywheel using your hand, and just making sure that those brass gears are properly meshing together. Okay, I have that tower assembly screwed down. You can kind of see here how it works. I'm just going to turn this by hand. So it's connected to the ball joint, which is connected to the socket. Goes to the flywheel, and the flywheel is connected to another socket, which is connected to this socket. And so it's quite something. But you can see here as I turn it, the gears are all properly meshing, and the wheels are in fact turning. Okay. So again, it needs some oil, some grease, and some break-in time. Okay, next step. We want to put in the rear truck. Now, the rear truck is interesting in that what you have to do is cut this other brass rod, making sure that one side has that white ball joint and the other side has the red. And that's because in the white ball socket here, the ball joint, this rod is sort of free floating. So as you go around curves and, you know, undulations or whatever, this rod is free to move back and forth. Okay? Whereas the one in the red, like, that's really cemented on there. That's very difficult to get on. It's a press fit, but good luck getting that off. It's kind of your fixed piece. So how this works is like this. Turn it to the underside, and then you got to line this up, put it in here. If I can get that on there. Okay. Okay, I just made a mistake. I discovered where the mistake is. I'd used the wrong hole in the splicer plate. Okay, the dimensions are still the same, like each side of the chassis. I just used one of the wrong holes in the splicer plate. So the brass tube, the brass rod, it's cut to the correct length. So I can't remove this red ball joint anymore. So anyways, just getting up my measuring tape. You know, I'm measuring it at about, 55 millimeters. Okay, or 5.5 centimeters. So anyways, the red ball joint goes on one side and the white goes on the other. Now my white one is right in the motor already. As far as this motor goes, you'll see it in the kit. You got to put the blue one on the end of the shaft here, and you have to put this cradle, whatever, this bracket on your motor. You also need to solder in your wires. So I think, there's your positive and there's your negative. Okay, so that's what you need to do for the motor. Screw this in, right? And you can see here the two holes for the motor mount. So get your brass tube. Again, with the brass rod, sorry, I keep calling it a tube. With the brass rod, you have to, I got a small file out just to rough up the edges a little bit so that there's a little bit here for the ball joint to grip onto, right? So position that on the ball joint and then fit it inside the motor. Okay, so you can see there how it's going to fit. Get your long screws, if I can find the long screws. Okay, we're missing the long screws. Alright, we'll have to look for those. Okay, I found the parts that I need. your long screws for the motor mount. Now you'll need this brass housing, I don't know what you call it, sleeve, whatever. What has to happen before you tighten down the motor, let me just move this out of the way here. What has to happen is you have to get the flathead screw, one of the longer ones anyway, because now you have to attach your rear truck. You could have done this earlier, I suppose. Yeah, anyways, position your rear truck, and what you're going to have to do, let me just move the motor out of the way first. What you're going to have to do is connect it to the rod at the bottom. You can see the sockets already in my rear truck here, so connect it at the bottom. Try to connect it. Come on. There we go, finally. Okay. Hold that together. And you can sort of see here the hole it's going to go into right here. But you'll need that brass bushing, or whatever you want to call it, piece, sleeve, tube. It needs to go in there first. And now you can get out your screw and connect your rear truck. Hopefully this works. Okay, you got that brass piece inside there, and you're connecting the rear truck, so it's connected, and you can see here the underside, right? If this rod is too tight, your trucks won't be able to go back and forth. So what's happening here is the rod is sliding in and out of the white ball socket, whereas it's really rock solid with the red. Okay, so now you can go up top again. Now you can take your motor mount, and you can mount it to your chassis. Okay, you can see here the motor, how it's been mounted. Yeah, I know it's not perfectly flat, but that's okay because we have this socket here in the ball joint, so that's fine. It's screwed down really tight. You don't want it coming off. Screw down really tight to the chassis. A couple things we need to do now is just like wire it together, but you can see how it works. Motor turns flywheel, flywheel turns gears, gears turn trucks, trucks then go to the other trucks just by this way of this drive axle. Okay, the positive is going to be, oh, one more thing I forgot to do here, a couple things actually. We need to include our pillar block cover, which goes on here. This is to prevent the flywheel from popping off. The other one here. Oh goodness. Not sure what this part's to. Oh, this might be the reason why my motor is mounted sort of on an angle. This little bracket may need to go underneath it. Riser. That's what I'm thinking, so let's just put those pieces on. Okay, I went ahead and screwed in that plate cover right here for the pillar block here for the flywheel. Same goes for this one right here. I then connected the red wire to the gear tower, and that little black bracket I believe was meant to go under here. It's kind of a spacer, and the motor's a little bit, it's not as angled as it once was. And then I just put the white wire over to the rear truck. So, moment of truth here. We'll get the test track set up, and we'll see if we're in business. And if it works, then we'll take it apart, well, the wires anyway, and we'll DCC it with a decoder. So let's just get this thing going. There we go. Oh, it's binding. Uh-oh, that's not good. There we go. Alright, some fine tuning would be necessary. We have to find out where it's binding. So we're just running it. Reverse. Okay, it works. The issue is going to be in the gears. What's happening is this gear tower is not properly meshing with the gear of the truck. So, gonna have to take that apart. Oh, I can see the problem here. Probably gonna have to take this apart and do some fine tuning of it. And we'll keep the project going and see how it turns out. Okay, so I had a bit of a problem here with the gear tower. What you may need to do if you have this kit is you may have to file down a little bit of the trucks, or you may need to file down the gear tower at the bottom, or you may need to put like a little shim in there and raise it if it's too tight. So again, you're gonna have to sort of look at the gear tower and look at the truck assembly, and if your gears aren't properly meshing, again, you're gonna have to either raise or lower your gear tower. And if you want to lower it, just file it down. Like I said, if you want to raise it, just put like a styrene shim in there just to raise it. So I had to lower mine, so I filed it a little bit, and it's running pretty well actually. So put it in the track over here, see if you can see this. Readjust the camera here. So it's running pretty good. Well, not too bad. It's acceptable, put it that way. Oh, sorry. There we go. So it's running much better. Slow speed. Nice. Not too bad. So I just finished DCCing this thing. Again, just following the DCC standards there. Red wire to, I guess it's conductor, or sorry, locomotive engineer side. Black wire to the conductor side. I had to switch the motor wires around. Maybe the motor's in upside down, or that's by design with HobbyTown. I don't know, but yeah, orange wire goes to positive. In this case, it's marked that way on the motor. Gray wire to negative, which is, yeah, gray wire to negative. Then the lights, that's probably the trickiest part, the lights. I think it's the white wire is the headlight, and that's connected in series with 2 LEDs for the headlight. So I just glued it in. You can see the surface mount LEDs right there. I just glued them in, and some bits of styrene just to prevent light bleed. These are warm white LEDs. So if I have to, maybe I'll have to make a cavity here just to prevent more light bleed into the cab. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, I might have to paint this black as well, just to, like, light could come through the roof. I'm not sure how thick this Tyco plastic looks pretty thick, so you know, I may not get too much light bleed and it may not be worth it, but I'm hoping the light's not too bright. Anyways, it's just connected in series there, so I got two wires coming off of the white, which would be my negative, and they're connected to a resistor for each black wire. And then the yellow wire is the rear light. You can kind of see moving on down. I got the 2 surface mounts put in there for the headlight. I just glued them to the lenses there. I'm not making my own lenses for a Tyco locomotive. Anyways, a piece of electrical tape just to prevent pulling on the wires. But again, the negative here, the black wire coming from the LED. The negative connects to the yellow wire. And then the positives, all the positives have no resistors, and the positives are disconnected to the blue wire. So a bit of fancy wiring here. Heat shrink tubing. Yeah, I mounted the decoder on I had a spare piece of plastic around. I just like cut it and, you know, sanded it, and then I had a longer brass screw. So this is kind of the mounting bracket for the decoder. And it rides up here on there's one screw here, the other one goes into the pillar block. That's fine. I mean, only thing this thing's doing is just holding the decoder, and there's a piece of double-sided tape right here. So there's your decoder in position, wired for DCC. Next step is programming. So there we go. I just programmed it in JMRI Decoder Pro, and I just labeled it Tyco Golden Eagle. It's my 3rd Tyco DCC locomotive. I also have 2 Canadianas. So I programmed it. There's the decoder model. I have to fill in the rest, but anyways, I got it pre-programmed. And we'll just turn on the lights here, see if they work. Pretty sure they do. Yep, there we go. So I'll just pan down, and you can see there the headlight. So, and go back over here, see if the rear lights work. Success! So the lights work beautifully. I'll put the forward on again. There we go. So there's what the light would look like. Hopefully it doesn't shine too bad, like through the roof, and you know, anyways, I may need to make a small box or cavity or whatever. Enclosure, I couldn't think of the word. I may have to make an enclosure for the light. Just it depends what it looks like on the layout. So next step is final reassembly, and there's a few minor things to do, like handrails. I'm wanting to fill in this coupler pocket here. I tried some gold paint, and it's just not the right kind of it's not the right kind of plating here. It's a gold paint, but it's kind of the wrong shade. So I don't know what I'm going to do here, because this cavity right here in the Tyco, this is meant for those horn couplers, and the truck, as it goes around the curves, like the couplers are attached to the trucks. They're not body mount couplers. Anyways, I need to fill this in somehow, this partition, because I'm going to put a KD coupler on the chassis here, and I don't need this kind of opening. It's going to look kind of weird, so I don't know. I'm going to have to get some styrene, and either I'm going to have to go black, or just try and get another brand of the gold paint and see what that looks like. So a little bit of experimentation to get it right. I could even go with the blue here, maybe. That might look okay. Maybe the blue. Yeah, it might be easier to match the blue than the gold because that's like a plating, and the blue, it looks a lot easier to match. Anyways, I'm thinking about that and filling in that pocket, and I have to put on the handrails yet too, and I have to somehow make well, I have couplers for it, but it may require some modification just to get it to sit properly. Okay, still not done yet. And there is the Golden Eagle. So let's turn this thing on. So we have light and forwards. Hopefully this thing works. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's not good. Okay, the wires could be causing a little bit of stress. Maybe they're in the way or something. I don't know. So gotta take this thing apart and see what the issue is. Okay, I think I determined the problem here. It's this flywheel. So I had to like move it on the screw just because what was happening, it was binding up against this area in here. You can sort of see how it matches up here with the shell. So it's actually a very tight fit. It's not loose at all. So the reason it was loose maybe at the beginning of the video is because I had it on the wrong hole here. It's actually very tight. Okay, I wired in the motor correctly this time. Forward. Thank you. Nice slow speed going forward. Stop. Reverse. Reverse light. Yes. Perfect. We have a DCC Tyco Golden Eagle locomotive. Hooray, hurrah. I just have finishing touches to do now, just more or less handrails, and I got to make a couple coupler pockets, but I can put couplers on anyway. Now it's ready to go, and it's actually pretty tight. I think it's not too bad. Like I pick it up, I mean it's not too bad. It's sitting on the shell. Well, it does come off a bit, so it's best to handle it by the fuel tank. But if you look at it, like it's, you know, it's really like close in terms of length. I mean, I have to physically maneuver like this snowplow just to get it off. Okay, so as far as the measurements, I may have told you at the beginning, yeah, I would go with those, and maybe a millimeter longer, but I'm very happy with the way it turned out. So it looks really sharp, painted a flat black, a little different than the initial Tyco release, but this is an upgraded Tyco Golden Eagle. I don't know. As far as the front goes, I'm thinking about doing the blue actually. The gold plating is just going to be probably way too difficult to match properly, and it's not going to look like gold plating. It's going to look like paint. This is actual gold plating, so I'm going to go with the blue. I think color match that blue and fill in that gap, and then get some proper KD couplers in there, and it'll look just as good as any locomotive I own. So big shout out to Nick over at HobbyTown Boston. Lots of advice, and this model, it took me quite a while to get it together, but you know, well worth it. To me, it's just as valuable as any other locomotive out there. More so simply because I built it myself. So great kit, really enjoyable project. So there you go. It's probably like one of the only DCC Tyco Golden Eagle locomotives out there. All right, thanks. Good luck to you in your project. We'll talk to you later. Bye.